In times of conflict, access to reliable news is vital, and today, many turn to social media as their primary source of information. On platforms like Facebook and Instagram, how people engage with content, so comments, likes, shares, reactions, can increase visibility and shape public opinion. But for the last year, Palestinian journalists have raised concerns that their posts are being suppressed.
المحتوى الفلسطيني عليه رقابة خاصة اللي بيطلع من قطاع غزة.
And according to our research, something has happened. In the first comprehensive data analysis by territory since the start of the war in Gaza, we analysed more than 100,000 Facebook posts by different Palestinian news organisations. This bar represents the average engagement per post in the lead up to the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. As you can see, it fluctuates, but it's steady. And then
Hamas's attack and Israel's subsequent and ongoing war in Gaza, with high civilian casualties, became one of the biggest talking points in the world.
But look what happens to the engagement on those same Facebook pages. It nosedives. In fact, since that date, there's been a 77% drop in average engagement.
One of the pages analysed in our investigation is the well-established Palestine TV. They have 5.8 million followers on Facebook and have had some posts about the war restricted by the platform.
رغم إنه الناس والجمهور مهتم جدا يشوف الأحداث اللي قاعدة بتصير بعد الحرب، اتفاجأنا إنه حصل العكس، تفاعل تم تقييده بالكامل، بطل الوصول إلنا.
Tarek showed us these analytics of how the number of users seeing Palestine TV's content dropped by 60% after October the 7th. Tarek and many others say they're being shadow banned. But what is shadow banning? It's an unofficial term for when a social network restricts a user without explicitly telling them. Platforms allow them to continue posting, but deliberately reduce how many people actually see and hear from them. There are lots of ways social networks can control how many people see certain posts. Virtual knobs and dials can be adjusted to make content more or less visible depending on the platform priorities. Once they're decided, the moderation is happening all the time, usually by machines, in a split second.
Meta, the owner of Facebook and Instagram, don't use the term shadow ban, but they do demote users or pages if they post things the company deems to be either problematic or low quality.
Ahmed Nour from BBC News Arabic compiled this data analysis. Ahmed, do you think that this decline in engagement on the Palestinian pages might be down to them posting violent or upsetting content about the war?
Yes, since October the 7th and the war in Gaza, we have seen evidence of a rise in graphic and hateful content online. But our research was focusing on established news organizations based in Palestinian territories, who would unlikely be the main offenders in posting this content. There has also been evidence of content that appears to be hateful and inciting coming from users in Israel. So we did the same analysis on news organizations based there and found they were not impacted as the Palestinian news organizations were. In fact, their engagement went up.
Could it be that Facebook moderates Arabic differently to other languages?
Well, we compared the pages located in the Palestinian territories with other Arabic-speaking news organizations based across the region, and we found their engagement went up, in some cases by 100%. Another question raised is whether Gaza's internet outages caused the Palestinian pages' engagement to drop. But this cannot be the case, as the residents of Gaza form less than 20% of some of the page's audience. Let's take a look at all three sets of data and see how they compare. Our analysis provides evidence for the first time since October 7th that news organizations based in Palestinian territories faced stricter moderation by Facebook.
The international community is more dependent on social media for seeing what's happening inside Gaza, as Israel has denied foreign reporters access into the Strip outside of very rare escorted trips. Omar El-Qatar is one of the few photojournalists who chose to stay in northern Gaza despite the risks. More than 130 journalists and media workers have been killed since the start of the war, with the vast majority in Gaza.
المحتوى لما بينحظر أكيد في كتير معلومات مش حنقدر ننشرها. يعني لما يكون الجيش ارتكب مجزرة، احنا صورنا الفيديو مش حينتشر، فالناس مش حتشوف المعلومات. رغم التحديات ورغم المخاطر ورغم إزالة المحتوى، احنا لابد ويجب إنه نستمر في نشر المحتوى الفلسطيني.
Meta admitted that pages posting exclusively about the war were more likely to see engagement impacted, but it said that any implication that it deliberately suppressed a particular voice is unequivocally false. The Californian company acknowledged that it makes mistakes with moderation, but says it had to adopt what it calls temporary product and policy measures in response to the conflict to balance platform safety with freedom of speech. The firm said this was difficult when groups like Hamas are both US sanctioned and designated as dangerous organisations under our policies.
It is a tough decision, right? Because they, I think, in general, want to provide news for people, with some exceptions perhaps, but they do also have this concern about hate speech. But I absolutely think it's possible that they're making mistakes, right? I mean, these are decisions that are being made very quickly. Fundamentally, Meta's main incentive is just to keep people on the platform. That's what they want to do. And that is always going to kind of keep priority over things like keeping people fully informed or showing both sides of the issues.
Meta publicly states that rules are applied equally to everyone, everywhere, and to all types of content. But according to some people from inside the company, Palestinians have been deliberately suppressed. This former Meta employee asked us to keep them anonymous, but shared internal documents about a change that was made to Instagram's algorithm.
Within a week of the Hamas attack, the code was changed, essentially making it more aggressive towards Palestinian people writing comments on Instagram posts.
They gave us these leaked documents showing an order to strengthen the precision threshold further from 40 to 25 for Palestinian authors only. This means the algorithm only has to be 25% sure a comment from a Palestinian based in the West Bank or Gaza was potentially violating guidelines to make it less visible to other users. The leaked documents also show an internal chat where an engineer raises a concern about the order. They say, "Seems odd to be decreasing the threshold this significantly for only one country," and they question whether or not this is introducing a new bias into the system against Palestinian users. Meta confirmed that this measure was taken, but said it was necessary to respond to what it calls a spike in hateful content. But clearly some staff were unhappy about it.
This kind of bias will affect the whole narrative. Customers, regular customers, would be looking at their phones thinking that they're seeing the truth, when they're actually seeing just a very small slice, or they're being trapped in a bubble because other people were silenced.
BBC journalist Yara Farag has been speaking to 5 former and current Meta employees. Yara, were these concerns raised at a higher level?
Concerns have been raised with Meta's executives such as Naomi Glate, head of product, Maxine Williams, chief diversity officer, and Nick Legg, head of global affairs. There's no clarity on who exactly gives the okay for changes to data or policies around content moderation. And there's also no clarity on whether anything was done in response to claims of systemic bias.
And this isn't the first time that Meta's been accused of having some sort of a bias against Palestinian users, is it?
It's not. In fact, since 2016, Palestinians have been raising concerns of unfair censorship on Facebook and Instagram. And in recent years, 2 major reports from Business for Social Responsibility and Human Rights Watch found that Meta's actions negatively impacted on the rights of Palestinian users.
Meta responded to both reports, saying it's still working to improve its moderation systems.
There is a huge problem in Meta's policies and the way they impact Palestine-related content. So I think we're beyond the argument whether, Meta is doing what they need to do or not, or, whether it's intentional or not. I think what Meta needs to do is to demonstrate what they're doing to ensure that they are protecting people's right to express themselves.
The decades-long Israeli-Palestinian conflict continues to be one of the most difficult topics to address for many media organisations. What our research suggests is that when platforms are as large as Meta's, even small changes can have big implications.